Alrighty, welcome everybody to the webinar today, 5 key mistakes to avoid with your nonprofit's website and what to do instead. It's going to be a very exciting webinar. We had a very good response to this one. A whole bunch of registrations came in on the line. Looking like the meeting room's filling up here. Definitely one of the larger webinars we've had in recent memory. So obviously this is one that you guys are very concerned about and want to have extra information about. I have a URL right up on the front page there. You should be able to see it now. nonprofitrd.com/5 mistakes. You can download the slides and print those out and use those to take notes on if you want, or you can download them later. You don't need to do that now. But we'll go ahead and get going. This will be recorded. As you've probably noticed, I am a bit of a fast talker, especially when I get excited about a topic like this. I do talk a little faster than most people, but this will be recorded so you can go back and watch it again if you do miss anything or don't get to write it down. So let's start a little bit with who I am. If you have not been on a webinar with me before, my name is Rich Dietz, founder of Nonprofit R&D. We do technology training for nonprofit professionals. So we really focus on small, medium-sized nonprofits and teaching and training and coaching on how you guys can do better online, both with your website, email marketing, online fundraising, you name it. The things I like to talk about myself, I don't like to talk about myself that much, but when I do, in this instance, I like to say that I'm a nonprofit guy from the beginning. I came to the tech side much later, probably like most of you, became the accidental techie. So I started in nonprofits when I was an undergrad in college, worked at a mentoring organization, got sucked into the nonprofit world working with severely emotionally disturbed kids, ended up going to get a master's in social welfare. So about as non-profit-y as you can get. So I know what it's like working in small, medium-sized nonprofits, no staff, no time, no budget, and you're told to do all these amazing things with technology. And you're like, yeah, right, after I do my 4 other jobs, which includes vacuuming and cleaning the bathroom because we can't even afford to have that done. So I know what it's like to be in that situation, and you know you can't spend a lot of money on technology because you don't have it in the budget. So what I like to focus on in my training is small changes, small strategy tactics that you can make with whatever current tools you're using that will have big improvements in your online fundraising, in your email marketing. It's a lot about how you're presenting this stuff. The technology is not as important. Once you start raising money, of course you can go out and get new technology and then reach an even larger audience and really do some amazing things. But in this presentation, there'll be something pretty much for everybody at all skill levels, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So that's who I am. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. Here's a quick agenda. We're going to have a quick introduction where I give a little bit of background on our topic. Then we're going to jump right into the 5 nonprofit website mistakes. We're going to cover all 5 of them and give you some ideas of how to overcome those mistakes. I'm then going to take about 5 to 7 minutes to let you know about a new course that we are launching today. It's a brand new course. Of course, it's all about websites. So if you've watched the webinar today and you feel like you need some extra help, we have a course and some coaching that can really help you do that. And then if you want to stick on the line, we are going to pick our giveaway winners. If everything goes well, I will pick the giveaway winners. I haven't done this live before, so we'll see if I can get all the software and everything to cooperate to show us those live winners. So I'll probably stop the recording at that point and just pick them live. Emmy says audio is going in and out on dial-in option. I am sorry, Emmy. Is the audio going in and out for other folks too if you're listening on your computers? It could be your phone, Emmy. I'm not sure. Other folks were saying the sound was okay. Hopefully the recording is coming out well if the audio doesn't work for you. Yeah, phone. Other folks are saying phone is fine. So Emmy, you might want to try moving your phone to a different spot or try using your computer speakers if you want as well. And if you want to enter the giveaway, if you have not entered the giveaway yet, this is your last chance. Go to nonprofitrd.com/giveaway. You still have some time to enter there. I am closing the giveaway at the end of this webinar, and we'll go ahead and pick those winners. And so you want to get in there right now. You can go ahead and do that while I'm doing the introduction. You won't miss too much of the valuable content. So just go and enter that right now if you have not already. Let's jump into our introduction. You'll probably notice if you've looked at the slides or downloaded the slides, I use very text-heavy slides. And I do this for a couple of reasons. Sorry, we got some more audio issues. This is where it's hard being the only person on the webinar. I don't have someone to help me with the chat box. Sorry about that, guys. So I use text-heavy slides for a couple of reasons. One is I don't want you to have to take extensive notes. I want you to be able to sit back and listen and really think about what I'm talking about. And when you come to those moments that really make sense for you and your organization, you can write those down and be like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and try that. The other thing is I want these slides to still make sense 6 months from now, when you go to dig them out and you're finally ready to start working on your website and you go dig them out, the slides that frustrate me sometimes is where it's a picture of a teddy bear holding a red heart, and I don't remember what the speaker was talking about on that slide, and so I'm just like, I have no idea, so the slides don't really mean anything to me. So I do use text-heavy slides. Hopefully they're a little more valuable to you in the long term. So this next slide, I put in all of my decks, and it usually dates me a little bit. But when I was a kid, my favorite show on TV was Different Strokes with Gary Coleman, and he had a tagline, "What you talking about, Willis?" And what you talking about, Willis, is my reminder to not be that tech speaker that is up here using all these acronyms and all these technology terms, and you guys really don't know what I'm talking about, but I think you do. So if I ever use a technology term or something like that that you don't know or you don't understand, just type into the chat box, "What you talking about, Willis?" and I will go back and define that term. Just let me know what the term was, and I'll go back and define it. I usually don't do that. I put this reminder up there to just put me in the right mindset. But if I ever do, you can go ahead and catch me on that. Angel just typed in, "Where do I get the slides?" If you joined late, you can get the slides at nonprofitrd.com/5 mistakes. And that's the number 5 and the word mistakes. You can get them there. I'll give that URL at the end again as well, so you guys can download those. So as I mentioned, I went to social work school, master's in social work, and one of the things we learn about there is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you've probably all heard of Maslow's hierarchy. It's a pretty common concept. Thank you very much for typing that in the chat box there, Sherry. Sherry just put the link to the slides in the chat box since I'm talking and can't really type very well. So thank you very much, Sherry. So Maslow's hierarchy basically says if you don't have your basic needs met, like food and water, you really don't care about higher level needs like friendship and self-esteem and all that stuff. And so as I started working with nonprofits around technology, I realized a couple things. One, I realized my social work degree was not a total waste after all. Actually working with nonprofits around technology is very much like social work. It's very much like therapy. There's crying, there's anger, there's disappointment, there's denial, there's grief. There's all the same things as you would see there. And some people are saying problems with the volume is a bit low. Sorry, try and turn your volume up. I don't know what else to do. I have my microphone as loud as I can. Sorry, guys. So I also realized that nonprofits kind of needed the same sort of structure when they were thinking about their online technology. And so what I did is I created what I call the online hierarchy of needs. And if you've been on any webinars with me, you've probably seen this before. And what I talk about is you really need to have a strong foundation. If your foundation is not strong, everything can come crumbling down. So you need to start with your website. That's why we're talking about that today. If your website is not solid, strong, and the hub of everything you do online, you can actually do more damage to your organization, more damage to your brand than if you didn't focus on it. And the example I give is, let's say you had an online video that went viral. So you did something, you recorded something really cool, it goes viral. You suddenly send 10,000 people back to your website tomorrow. What are they going to find when they get there? Are you proud of your website? Does it look like it was built in 1999? Can people find the information they're looking for? Can they find your donate button? Or do they get so frustrated by your website that they decide to never come back again and may not ever support your organization? So that's why we really focus on the foundation, why we focus on the website, and why I spend a lot of time focusing on this foundation. A lot of my clients I work with, we spend almost all of our time working on this part right here, from email marketing, fundraising campaigns, down to the website. Right there, you can raise a ton of money online. You don't even need these more advanced strategies up here. They can really be boosters. They can increase your results, but really this is what you really need down here. So let's talk about the website today, and let's start jumping right into those website mistakes. So the first website mistake that I see nonprofits making is they still have what's called a brochure website. I'm not sure if you've heard of what a brochure website or remember what a brochure website is, but these are the websites that people had back in the early 2000s, late 90s and all that stuff. And a brochure website is incredibly boring. It's usually about 10 pages, 15 pages. It's static, boring. It has your mission statement prominently displayed. I can tell you nobody really wants to see your mission statement. People aren't really concerned that much with the statement. It doesn't really mean anything to them. Even though you spent 2 days working on it at a retreat, that's not what they're looking for. The site's also not really updated very often. People know they go there, they come back in 4 months, the content hasn't changed at all. They know it's a brochure website at that point. They're probably not going to come back. There's no reason for them to come back. And most importantly, a brochure website does not encourage or inspire action. So that is the key. So we want to change our websites and think about them as what we call a direct response website. A direct response website focuses on getting people to take action. We want folks to do things. We want them to sign up, to donate, to call us, to register, to vote, to like us on Facebook. All of these little actions, it's what they're looking to do online. That's why Facebook is so popular, because people are super poking and playing Farmville. People are doing things online now. They don't passively consume content anymore. So we need to give them those things to do. We need to give them those small actions. That increases their engagement with us. It also increases their connection to us. If you can get people to do small favors for you, like telling a friend about your website or liking you on Facebook or voting in a poll, if they do those small favors, they're way more likely to do the bigger favors when you ask, like donate to your next fundraising campaign. So the key to a direct response website is you want to have some sort of call to action on every single page of your site. Now, at first, that sounds a little overwhelming. Oh my God, I'm going to tell them to do something on every page. So it's not donate on every single page. That's not your call to action. But on every page, they should have one call to action, like us on Facebook, watch this video, go check out our latest event, go to this page, tell a friend. You can come up with 100 different calls to action, and you sprinkle those throughout your website. So no matter what page they come to, they can find something that they're supposed to do, some action they're supposed to take. And then if they start taking those actions, you can tell that they're engaged. You can tell that your content is resonating with them. You can also tell that they are becoming more engaged and going to be more likely to respond to your fundraising appeals as you go down the road. So we want to have direct response websites, not brochure websites. The next mistake I see nonprofits making is boring content. Boring content. You don't want someone looking like this when they are looking at your website, all right? That is not going to engage them. That's not going to make them feel an emotional connection. It's not going to make them want to donate or take any of those actions. They're going to very quickly go away to YouTube or Facebook and start playing games and watching cat videos, all right? We don't want to do that. We want to have things more. What do I mean by boring content? By boring content, I mean you're not telling stories. Stories are one of the most magical things you can do on your website. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. You have very long text articles. As people see a big block of text, they get overwhelmed. They don't even read it. So you need to break your text up into smaller chunks and sprinkle it with images and video. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. You also need to stop talking about your mission statements. People really don't care about your mission statement. They don't really understand why your mission statement is important. We're going to tell you what to do instead, and that is to focus on your why. So we'll get to that in a moment as well when we get into how to fix the boring content problem. We also want to make sure we're giving people what they want. The Community Philanthropy 2.0 survey asked people, what do you want to hear about on the nonprofits that they support? And they answered a survey, and what they said is the number one thing they wanted to hear about was organizational impact. The number two thing they wanted to hear about was success stories. That's what they want to hear about. Success stories is also the best way to show organizational impact. And so that is what people want to see. So let's say, so how can we make our content less boring? The first thing we want to do is tell stories. Stories create an emotional connection. We are hardwired as humans to relate to stories, to be connected to. In fact, they have studies where they hook up two people to a brainwave machine, and the person telling the story and the person listening to the story, their brains actually sync up. They have the exact brain activity, whether they're telling the story or listening to the story. So we literally sync with people's brains when we tell stories or listen to stories. That is powerful. Individual stories are way better than telling stories about groups. So tell your stories about success stories about individuals in your program. And this can also be animals. Animal welfare groups do a really good job of this. They tell stories about individual cats and dogs that need surgery, and then they raise money around that. People can relate to people or animals. That's what they want to do. It's also easier to show the why you do what you do. We're going to talk about the why in a couple more slides here, but that is really important. We want to inspire people with our passion, and your passion comes out when you tell stories. When I ask nonprofits what they do, they give me their mission statement, or they give me some boring generic thing about, oh, we serve our community with literacy and blah, blah, blah. But then I tell them, tell me your favorite success story from your program. And they wave their arms. They're all passionate. There's tears. There's hugging. There's crying. I mean, all this stuff. That's where it comes out. That's what people want to see. So use stories throughout your content on email, website, social media, everywhere you can. Tell more stories, and you will immediately see people be more engaged and not think that your content is boring. A great example of storytelling, it's an example I show all the time. It's the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Don't go here if you don't want to just probably cry and just get totally sucked in by this. But It's a great opportunity to tell stories. What they did is the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum had a bunch of pictures of children who were separated from their families during the Holocaust. And what they did is they just started posting these pictures online saying, do you know these people? Do you remember me? And people started posting in saying, that's me. Or someone says, that's Bob from, Poughkeepsie, New York. And then Bob writes in and tells the story about how he ended up from Austria in 1939 to living in Poughkeepsie, New York. Okay, that's an amazing story. And that shows you why the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum needs to exist and why these stories need to be told. That is passion. I had a quick question come in here from Nicole. My coworker and I disagree on which is worse, making them scroll down a lot or making them click to another page. What do you think? Oh, that's actually a good one. You know what I would do is I would try stories, I would try some content both ways and see which one people get to the end of the story. And one way to tell whether people get to the end of the story is if you do multi-pages, you can see whether that third page of the story ever gets viewed or not. But if you have a long scrolling piece of content, what you can do is at the very last paragraph, put a line in there saying, if you read this line, please email us, you win a free t-shirt. I've done that with a couple of my clients, and we found that people don't ever email for that free t-shirt because they never get to the bottom of that content. So if you have long content, it's better to break it up. What I'd like to do, if I have a really long piece of content, a really long story, break it up into 3 different blog posts and tell it over the course of a week or a course of 2 weeks and make people want to come back in 3 or 4 days to hear the next installment of that. That's the whole cliffhanger soap opera thing. So that's a great thing to do on those longer pieces of content. Break them up and use them over a longer period of time. That will increase your engagement as well. Another way to have good, exciting content and not boring content is use more images and video. Images and video are the best way to tell your story. It creates much more of an emotional connection, especially video, because it utilizes more of the senses. Think about how many people cry watching commercials on TV. You don't see people crying reading an ad in a magazine as often. It's usually the emotion of that video, of the sound, of the feel. All of that creates more emotion. Video and images are 5 to 10 times more likely to be shared than a text post. So if you want your stuff to go viral, if you want your content to be so exciting that people share it, you want to use more images and video. It's also 50 times easier to get ranked on page 1 of Google with a video than it is with text content. And that's because Google loves video. They love video so much they bought YouTube. So they definitely love video. They rank it very highly. And video doesn't have to be fancy. You can grab your iPhone, your Android phone, and hit record and ask one of your staff people, what's your favorite success story? Record that 2-minute success story, post that on your blog. I guarantee you will get more engagement on that post than on your long blog you took 2 weeks to write. People love those little videos and they love those success stories, so definitely do that. Another way to make your content exciting, and that is to show what you do, but more importantly, the why. So the what you do, somebody should be able to come to your homepage and pass the 5-second test. And that is within 5 seconds, can they tell what you do and the impact that you have in the community? You can do this by having a strong headline and not having too much content on your homepage. We're going to talk more a little bit about how to limit the content on your homepage in a little bit, but just think about that, not having too much. If you have too much content on your homepage, people don't know where to look or what to read. They can't really tell what you're doing. You got too much stuff going on. So that's that. But most importantly, the best way to make your content exciting and engaging and get people to connect with it is to focus on the why. The why you do is way more important than what you do. And there's 2 reasons for this. One, there was a really cool study called the Xerox study where it showed that people just needed any reason why to trigger something in their brain. And what they did, the Xerox study, is they created a really long line at a college campus. Somebody walks to the front line and says, can I cut in line? If he says, can I cut in line, 60% of the people let him cut in line. Now, this was in 1973, so I think people were much nicer back then, hippies and free love and all that stuff. I think that number would be much lower now. But the interesting point is, if he said the word because, 93% of people let the person cut in line, just by using the word because. And here's the catch. Here's his because. Because I need to make a copy. Is that hilarious? So obviously he needs to make a copy. Everyone in line needs to make a copy. But just that word because did something to us because we want that why. We want to know why something exists. Now, if you really want to dig into the why, there is a great TED Talk by Simon Sinek. Now, I'm normally not a huge fan of TED Talks, but this one I really like. Don't write down that URL. You can get it on the printout, or you can just search Google for TED Talk Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, and you'll come up with it. And what he talks about is the why is what is compelling. The why is what gets great leaders to get people to take action. And he gives the example of Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, have an I Had a Dream speech. He didn't have the I have a plan speech. He didn't say, what we need to do is organize on the district level and then on the block level, and then we need to have 2 precinct captains per 5 miles. That's not what he did. He talked about I have a dream. He talked about kids playing together. And that launched the civil rights movement. That got people to go back to their homes and start doing the planning and the organizing and all that stuff. And so he really talks about the why is what gets people to take action, and you guys can do the exact same thing. Show the why you do what you do. And the best way to show the why is what we talked about earlier. Tell those stories. Those stories is what's exciting. Those stories is what shows the why. The stories is what gets people to take action. I just did a workshop at a conference yesterday where I talked about how to use storytelling in your fundraising. And at the end of that workshop, I always have people come up and tell live stories. And we had people in the audience literally in tears listening to these stories. It's what people just really connect to. And so you want to be telling more of those stories. Mistake number 3, not fully utilizing email marketing. Email marketing is super powerful. It's one of the easiest and most inexpensive and best ways to reach out to your constituents, your supporters, your audience. And so what do we mean by not using email marketing, not fully utilizing email marketing? Emailing your supporters from Outlook, that is bad. That is a no-no. By putting all those names in the BCC, you are actually sending a lot of your emails to the spam folder. And the reason for that is most internet companies, Gmail and Hotmail and all those guys, they all know that that's what spammers do. Spammers put 100 emails in the BCC and try and email out Viagra and all that stuff. So if they see a lot of email addresses in the BCC, a lot of times they'll put that in spam. So you don't want to do that. You want to use an actual mail service provider, and I'll talk about those in a couple moments here. Also, not growing your list. If you have 100 people on your list, if you have 10 people on your list, you have 500 people on your list, you need to constantly be growing that list. Your email list is the most inexpensive, easiest way to reach out to people. Very powerful, and we'll talk about that as well. Only sending out your monthly newsletter. If you just send out your monthly newsletter, and I put that in quotes because your monthly newsletter probably goes out every 6 to 8 weeks because they're such a chore, they're so burdensome. I'm going to tell you why you want to scrap the monthly newsletter and stop doing that chore, and a better way to do it in a moment. So email is still one of the best tools you have. Make sure you're using it. Just for proof of that, email is still the #1 tool that nonprofits use to raise money online. In fact, there was a cool survey done by Nonprofit Marketing Guide where they asked marketing professionals in the nonprofit space, they said, what communication tools do you think are important? What tools could you not live without? And this was even back in 2011. And they asked them, what's important to you? And it's really small on the screen. You might not see it. The #1 tool that people said they needed, email marketing. The #2 tool, their websites. #3, print. So can you spend so much time focusing on email and your website? It's the tool that the people that, this is what they do for a living. These are people that are nonprofit communications professionals. They don't have to do the 8 jobs that most of us do. They are really focused on communicating. They're really focused on the marketing side. They know email is their #1 tool. Then it comes down, it starts dropping down pretty severely here when you get down into things like Facebook, their blog, Twitter, and something like texting is valued as important by almost nobody. So we want to focus on those high ROI items over here, and that is email marketing. It is still the #1 way that most nonprofits make money online. It's not Facebook, it's not Twitter, it's not text messaging. It is sending out an email to your supporters, telling them an amazing story and then a fundraising campaign that you're launching, sending them back to your website and asking them to donate. It's also how people want to be communicated with. 69% of respondents to the Cygnus donor survey said they prefer electronic over print communication. And that number is going up every single year. It's going higher and higher and higher. And depending on the demographic, if you get to the younger demographics, Gen Y, Gen X, that number is very high. That number can be in the 80s or 90s depending on the survey that you look. We don't want print communication. Some of the older generation still does, and it's fine to still send it to them. Email is also a very powerful way to get in what are called the 7 touches. The 7 touches are a marketing principle that basically says it takes up to 7 contacts or touches for somebody to be comfortable enough to make a buying decision or a donation decision as far as I'm concerned. It's very unlikely someone's going to donate to your website the very first time they come to it. The very first time they meet you or see you, they're not going to donate. They want to get to know you a little bit better. So you need to get in these 7 touches. If you just do a monthly newsletter, it's going to take a minimum of 7 months to get in those 7 touches. But if you start doing email marketing in a new way, which we're going to talk about next, emailing them more often than once a month, emailing them 4 and 5 times a month, you can get those 7 touches in much quicker and let them get to know you, develop that relationship. We also have the direct responses, getting them to take those small actions, deepens that relationship. They're much more likely to donate. Email marketing is also very inexpensive and has a high ROI or return on investment. If you're just getting started in email marketing, you can use something like MailChimp.com. I put the URL on the screen right there, MailChimp.com. It is free, yes, free for up to 2,000 people on your email list. Most of you, probably don't have 2,000 people yet. If you do, there is a small fee to go up and above that, and very comparable at that point to something like Constant Contact, which is one of the more popular email service providers in the nonprofit space. But MailChimp free for up to 2,000 users really gets you started. Once you've gotten to 2,000 email addresses, you should be raising online by that point because you're going to be sending out emails, telling great stories, driving them back to your website to actually donate. You want to start capturing emails now. You want to capture emails anywhere and everywhere you can. So, put an opt-in box on your website where people can sign up for your list, but you also want to get them everywhere you can. If you're at a live event, have a clipboard where you ask for emails. If you have paper forms, add a question on your paper form saying you'd like to sign up for our newsletter. Any way you can get those email addresses, do that. That is key, is growing that email list. Of course, doing it ethically, though. Don't be buying lists and spamming people. We want to do it ethically. So now I talked a little bit about the monthly newsletter. I am a big fan of getting rid of the monthly newsletter. I call it what is a hashtag fail on Twitter. The monthly newsletter is not working the way that you think it is. People are not actually reading it. And let's think about how people process their inbox. Let's say one of your great supporters comes into work on a Monday morning. They got 30 emails already in their inbox, and they start processing them. They got a meeting in 30 minutes. They're a little panicked. They're deleting. They come to your monthly newsletter, and they're like, oh, my gosh, I love these guys. Let me check out their monthly news. Opens it up. What is in there? There's 8 articles. There's 5 calls to action. It's really a little overwhelming. They don't have time to read it right now. They say, I'm going to read that later. And they close it. They even mark it high importance. I'm going to come back to that. By the end of the day, your monthly newsletter has been pushed onto page 2 of their inbox. They never see it. They never read it. But your email statistics show it as an open, so you think they read it. You think it actually made a difference, but it did not. And then after about 6 months of not reading it, they end up unsubscribing from your monthly newsletter because they're feeling guilty about it. So what I say is send more emails, but shorter emails, what they call snack-size emails. Send an email that is 1 paragraph and a link to an article, to a video, to something that you want them to go do. They sort of get used to that your emails are short and sweet. They have something to do or not do. That's it. They don't get intimidated by it. And it's actually a much better way to get them to take action. Now, a lot of people will complain to me, oh, but if I send 5 emails a month, people are going to unsubscribe from my list. They're going to be all angry. That is actually not the case. A really cool study done by a firm out in California called Common Knowledge, where they did this with 2 different email lists broken into 2 groups, a high-frequency email list and a low-frequency email list. They found that the high-frequency email list, emailing 5 months instead of 1, the high-frequency one raised 21% more money and had 31% less unsubscribes. So people unsubscribe less by sending more email but smaller snack-sized chunks. So people really appreciate that. They don't want those long emails. And it makes it so much easier on you. You don't have to write this huge newsletter. All you have to do is once a week come up with 1 paragraph and a link on your website to send people. It could be a video. It could be a blog post. It takes a lot of the pressure off. You're going to be more likely to stay in contact with them. So make them easy to digest, scannable. And the key to email marketing, and we're going to talk about this when we get to analytics, it's not open rates. Open rates mean almost nothing to me because they could open it and not read it and close it right away. That doesn't mean anything. Click-throughs is what means a lot. How many people are clicking on the links in your email? That they're engaged. That means they're actually going to your website and actually doing something. So we want to have that single call to action in every email, and that's how we know that they're going to be engaged. So that's on the email marketing side there. The next big mistake I see is poor website design and structure. And this is an awesome website. I put the URL down here. The website is worldworstwebsiteever.com. And sad to say, many nonprofit websites kind of look like this. I'm not saying yours looks this atrocious or this bad, but you might not be very proud of it. And when you have a website that is not designed well or does not look good, it can actually turn a lot of people off and you can use it. So what do we mean by a designed website? Is your website kind of partying like it's 1999? Does it look like it's from 1999? People can tell when it looks like it's from 1999. It looks like a brochure website. It has bad color choices. It's blocky. There's just big chunks of text everywhere. It doesn't look good. So what I ask my clients is, how do you feel about your website? Are you proud of your website? Do you think it's a good website? Are you inspired by your website, or are you embarrassed by your website? If you don't like your website, you won't drive traffic to it. You will subconsciously not want people to go see it, not drive traffic to it. If you don't do that, you can't develop a relationship with them. You can't get them to do those small actions for you. You actually end up losing. And so that's why we want to start with the website, really make some improvements on it. We want to spend some time on improving our website, but we don't want to spend too much time. We want to get our website to a minimum viable point where we feel good about it, but not to where it doesn't have to be perfect. We don't want everything to actually be perfect. Okay? So how do we improve our website? How do we make improvements to the look and feel of our website? The first thing is navigation. We want to make sure our navigation is user-focused and not focused by the departments within our organization. So we don't want the giving department and the staff directory and stuff like that. We want to think, how are our users going to use our website? And we can do that by looking at what's called our MWR, or most wanted response. And we'll look at that in a moment, and I also have a great example. Now on the design side, I am happy to say that you no longer need fancy design. In fact, fancy design is actually almost a detriment nowadays. People are looking for clean, simple design and an easy way for them to get the content. Online stuff is all about content now. People want content, they want to interact. They don't care. You have icons that have a shimmering ocean below them that makes a reflection and all this fancy stuff that people go crazy about years ago. They want clean, simple design. And to prove that, think of the two most popular websites in the world, Facebook and Google. They're probably two of the most boring designs in the world. They know that their users want content. They want to interact. They want to get the content that they want. They don't care about fancy design. So the whole new movement in design right now is called flat design. And flat design is pretty much what Facebook is here. You don't have a lot of 3D effects and all this fancy stuff. Just have clean, simple colors that are complementary and present the content for them there. Use lots of photos. Photos are way better than fancy graphics. So that's all you need to think about on design. So if you're going to have a new website design, you can pick a theme that is very simple, or have a designer make something for you that is very simple. And a great example of a clean design and a really good navigation is IES Abroad. IES Abroad is a study abroad program for students, so they can go all over the world and study. And look at their nice, simple, clean design. They really focus on the pictures. This is what people want to see. People want to see pictures of people. We're drawn to faces, and so we look at the face. I don't even notice the rest of the design because it kind of just blends in. But when I want to find something, look how easy it is to find. They made their navigation based on who's coming to their website. Are you looking to find a program, apply, or are you looking for scholarships? And then at the very top, you might not be able to see this, but up here they have a section that is based on who you are. Are you an advisor and faculty, an alumni, or a parent? Is that just not a very simple, clean, beautiful navigation? And you could probably simplify your navigation that way as well if you really want to think about narrow down. Once somebody clicks on something like parents, they know more about them. They know what parents are looking for. Parents are looking for, where exactly are you sending my daughter, and how are you going to keep her safe when she's in this foreign country? Information like that. So it's a nice way to make it very simple. You're going to get a lot more engagement. People are going to be able to find the information they're looking for much better. Another way to really, really clean up your navigation and design is to think in terms of the most wanted response. And the most wanted response is a really cool term from the business community. I use it on nonprofit websites, and many nonprofits are using it now. In fact, we have an example I will show you next, of course. And that is thinking through a couple questions. Who visits your site? Who is coming to your site? What are they looking for? And then what do you need them to do in order to engage further, to build a relationship, or give them the information they want? Now, the example we just showed, IES Abroad, really thought that through. They thought about who's visiting the website, what they're looking for. They made it very easy for them to find. And the key to this is not giving people too many choices, especially on your homepage. Okay? If you give people too many choices, they would rather make no decision than make the wrong decision. And there's actually a really cool study called the JAM study where they actually studied this. And I'll give you the version of the JAM study. I think it's very interesting. They go to a supermarket, and out in front of the supermarket, they have a table giving out free samples of jam. And they do like crazy flavors of jam. It's cayenne jam and jalapeno jam and bacon jam, 18 different flavors of jam, like just amazing stuff, right? There's a line around the block for people to come in and free samples for the jam, right? Everyone's sampling the jam, right? But they make almost no sales because people are overwhelmed by having 18 choices. It's too much. They're afraid of making the wrong choice. Well, do I want the bacon? Do I want the jalapeno or the other one? I don't know. The next day they come back. They only have 3 types of samples: cayenne, jalapeno, bacon. And you know what? They sell 5 to 10 times more jam. All of a sudden the jam is flying off the shelf because people are like, well, I don't like the spicy stuff, but I love bacon, and they grab the bacon jam. Someone says, oh, I love spicy, I'm grabbing the jalapeno, right? You limit the choices, much more likely for them to take action. So really think this through on your homepage. On your homepage, think through how can I limit the choices as much as possible, much like IES Abroad did, or like Besties with Testes does. This is one of my favorite organizations, Besties with Testes. They are a testicular cancer organization. And when someone tells me they can't use humor on their website because they have such a serious website, well, this is a cancer organization, and look at what their logo is. Their logo is a squirrel holding a single nut. I mean, tell me that they're not using humor. They have a nice little edge to them, so you can use a little more humor than you probably think you can. But their homepage design, look how beautiful this is. They have this big navigation at the top so people can get to anywhere in the website they want, right? But they've really minimized that, and they've focused on the most wanted response: educate, join, or donate. They've really thought through this process. Who's coming here, what they want, what they need, bam, there they are. All right, great example of it. Another thing I want to say about design is a personal crusade that I'm on, and that is to get rid of your homepage slider. Many of you probably have this on your website. It's that big graphical picture at the top, and it slides through and shows all these beautiful pictures. Everybody loves their sliders because they're really pretty, but I'm telling you that they don't work. You are wasting some of the most valuable real estate on your website with that slider that is actually not doing the job you think it is. It looks pretty, but it doesn't work. An organization, leadpages.net, just recently did some studies on this. They found that the homepage slider gets 1% click-throughs. That means 1% of your visitors are clicking on it. And of that 1%, 89% of them are clicking the first slide. Nobody is seeing slides 2, 3, 4, and 5 in your slider, and you're wasting all that space. This over here on the right is what's called a heat map study, where they looked at a website that had a slider on it, and they tracked people's eye movements to see where they're looking. Look how many people looked at the slider. Where it's red is where most people looked. Green is where some people looked. Almost nobody looked at the slider area. Everybody skipped over the slider, went right down to the content. So try removing that slider, or instead of the slider, putting your most wanted responses right there at the top. Don't waste that valuable real estate. Next way to create a better website usability-wise is a simple donation registration process. I'll kind of go over this really quickly, but things you want to do is reduce the number of clicks. You want to simplify your forms. You want to optimize your donation levels. I'll let you guys read those a little bit more because I'm kind of running a little long. I'm getting so excited talking here. But you really want to simplify your donation and registration process as well. We can always go more into that on another webinar. I actually have a whole one where we do. But I got a good example of that here, and that is Doctors Without Borders. Very simple, donation page. You can look at that as an example. But let's get into the number 5 mistake that I see nonprofits making. And this one I think is so important that I wanted to spend more time on it. And that is flying blind. And what I mean by flying blind is you are not currently using data to support your decisions. You are making decisions on your website based on what you think or what you feel or what you heard somebody say down the road. So you really want to start using data now to make those decisions, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. So what do I mean by flying blind? I mean you're not using measurement and testing. Measurement and testing is key to knowing whether things are working or not. Even the strategies I give you today, all the strategies we talked about so far, they may or may not work for you. I can't promise that telling stories will work for you. I think it will, but the only way to know for sure is to try it out, measure your engagement, measure whether more people are reading it, measure whether more people are clicking, and then do more of that if it works. So without data and testing, you really are flying blind. You don't know what worked. You don't know what didn't work. You don't know whether all of your effort was worth it. You don't know if there was a return on investment. And I can tell you that making small changes on your website can have big results. There was an organization, there's a website called whichtest1.com, which I have up on the screen there, and they show online usability tests where people did things as simply as changing the color of a button, and one of the colored buttons had a 20% higher view rate than the other button. By changing a headline, by changing where the headline was located, just making those small little changes. And every week they highlight a new test, and so it's a great place to go to see what other people are testing and how you might be able to add that into your website and testing as well. So what I say is start with the best practices. You can start with the things that I talked about today. You can start with other best practices you read about, and then you need to test them for yourself. The only way to know if it's a best practice for you is if it works in your organization. And so let's talk a little bit about how we can do some of this measurement and testing. One of the first things I tell people is to do a website audit, and that is to get honest feedback about your website right now. And the way you do this is you ask volunteers, board members, family members, people off the street if you have to come in and do stuff on your website, and then you watch them do it. So you sit them down at a computer and you ask them to donate. Ask them to sign up for your email list. Ask them to describe what you do, et cetera, and then you watch them do it. And when you see them start struggling to find out how to donate, like where's that donate button? Is it under ways to give? Is it under how to help? Well, we obviously want to make that more obvious. We want to pull that donate button out of that internal menu, put it in the top right corner where most people are putting their donate buttons now. You'll see people say, I don't know how to sign up for your email list. I can't find it. You'll know you need to make that more prominent. So you ask them to do things, and then you get honest feedback as you watch them, because they can't lie to you then. They can't say, oh, no, it was really easy to find, right? Because if you ask them, that's what they'll tell you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But when you're watching them, they can't hide the fact that they're getting frustrated. They can't hide the fact that they can't find what you're talking about. So that is really huge. So that's a great way to get some feedback on it. But if we want to start looking at data, if we want to start looking at the analytics, what can we look at? There's two types of analytics that we'll talk about today. The first one is email analytics. And this is a big reason why you want to be using an email provider like MailChimp.com or Constant Contact or one of those, because they'll automatically track all these analytics for you. You don't even know what it all means yet. It'll be tracking it all for you. You can always go back then and look at your campaign. And there's two big data points that most people look at when they're talking about email analytics. Number one is email opens, and that is how many people are opening your email. Now, this is very difficult to measure, and it's probably not as important as you think. And I mentioned this before. I'm not a huge fan of opens. Opens don't tell me whether they really read the content or whether they were willing to engage with the content. So I really focus more on email click-through rates. Email opens, what I do like to look at there is email opens have changed drastically over time. If I usually get about 35% opens on my email and all of a sudden it drops down to 10%, I probably made a big mistake on that subject line. I did something in the subject line that did not make people want to open it, so I might go back and try something else. That's the only time I really look at open rates. Email click-through rates are much more important because it shows people took an action. It shows they actually read enough to click on a link. That is much more important to me. That is much more telling. So you want to focus on that click-through rate and test things that make people want to click more. Something like asking people to watch a video, click on a video, is going to get one of your highest click-through rates. So that is really important. So anything you can do to get those click-through rates. The next one, and where people usually struggle and get a little overwhelmed and a little panicky and a little scared, is when you start talking about website analytics. And that is, do you know what your site is doing today? Do you know who your visitors are? Do you know where they're coming from, what they're looking at, how long they stay, what do they want more of? Do you know all this stuff? If you don't know all this stuff, it's really hard to provide content for them. It's hard to engage with them if you don't know what they want, what they're looking for, what they're interacting with now. So the easiest ways to do this is to use Google Analytics. It's free. It's a great place to start. You basically get a small little piece of code from Google Analytics. You insert it on all of the pages of your website. You can put it in your footer. If you use a content management system, there's very easy ways to add it in there. Your website person can also help you do that. I'll also be showing people how to do that in the website course that I'm leading starting next week. But you want to use Google Analytics because it's free, and it tracks everything you can imagine. It tracks so much, I don't even know what all it tracks in there. And so most of my clients, they'll get Google Analytics, they'll open up Google Analytics, and they're overwhelmed by what to look at. They're like, oh my gosh, there is way too much to look at here. I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I like to start my clients with just looking at 4 key data points. We start with 4, and as they get comfortable with these 4 key data points, we start adding new ones in, because there's some cool ones that you can really add in. But the 4 ones I always start with, the first one is top pages. Top pages. And you can get to this in Google Analytics by going to Behavior, Site Content, All Pages. And what this does is it shows you how many page views you have for specific pages. Over here is listed all the pages, and I kind of grayed them out because this is like personal information. I wasn't sure if I wanted to share all the exact page names and all that stuff of what my most popular traffic is, because somebody could go and steal my page names and try and rank higher than those than I do currently. So I grade those out. But over here is the page name, and then it tells me how many page views that page has. And so I can very quickly sort this by clicking the arrow by the most popular content on my website, and I can see this is the 10 most popular pages on my site. Maybe I should write more content like that. So one of them is about SEO. One of the most popular pages on my blog is search engine optimization for nonprofits. So obviously, you guys have questions about search engine optimization. I should do more stuff about search engine optimization. Because of that, I created a training around search engine optimization, shockingly enough. So this really informs you on what content your users are reading now, and then you can give them more of that. So that is really important. The next data point I like to look at is traffic sources. And you can get the traffic sources in Google Analytics by going to Acquisition, All Traffic. And this will tell you where your traffic's coming from. And it might be a little small down here, but you can see my #1 source of traffic on this site is organic traffic from Google. Then it's direct traffic. Direct traffic means people typed in the URL, so they either saw it on a piece of paper or someone told them about it or something like that. Then we have other search engines and we have other websites, but this will tell you who is sending you traffic. If Google's sending you a lot of traffic, then search engine optimization is working. We might want to do more of that. If you find that a certain website is sending you a bunch of traffic, maybe a business or someone in the community, you can actually go contact them and say, oh my gosh, we realized you sent us 1,000 visitors last month. What can we do to help you? Why, how can we have you talk more about us? You're a great source of traffic. So I like to look at the traffic sources for potential partners to help me market what I'm doing. So if you have a big fundraising campaign coming up, look at your traffic sources, see who's already sending you traffic, reach out to them individually and say, hey, we have this new fundraising campaign. You might want to tell your people about it. That's a great way to use the traffic sources. The next one I like to look at is average time on page. This one is really cool. You can find this under Behavior, All Pages within your Google Analytics. And what this does is it tells you on a page-by-page basis how long are people staying on that page. The #1 page here, people are staying 5 minutes and 40 seconds. That's good. That means they're doing stuff on that page. They're either watching a video or they're actually reading the content. Down here, we have ones where people are only spending a minute on the page. This one, only a minute on the page. I did something wrong on that page where I'm not really engaging them. I'm not really getting them enough interested to want to stay longer on that page. This also really helps if you have a video on a page. If you have a 4-minute video on the page and your average time on page is 1:08, like that one is right there, you know there's a problem with the video. Right about at the 1-minute mark, people are getting bored and leaving. So you might want to go and re-edit that video or try a different video that keeps them engaged longer. So that average time on page can really point out trouble content, content that people are not engaging with. It also shows the content they're really engaging with and watching there. And so that is super important as well. So we want to do both of those. I have Anne saying she lost audio. Did other folks lose audio out there? You could let me know. I'm not showing that I've lost audio, but it very well could have. No, okay, we still have audio. Sorry, Anne. You're going to have to try and dial in. Sometimes that just happens. Okay, still okay. All right, so that's a great stat there, average time on page. And in the website course, we're going to do one much deeper into these analytics and kind of helping you get that set up and then showing you how to actually start using this data to make improvements to your site. But I'm telling you some good tips on it already as well. The next stat I like to look at is kind of a weird one, and it's called bounce rates. And this is one a lot of people haven't probably heard before, but bounce rates. What bounce rate is, it's basically people that come and just view one page of your website and then leave. They're not looking at 2, 3, or 4 pages. And so what that means is they have bounced. They basically came, they looked at some of your content, and they left without doing anything else. That's usually a bad sign. Google doesn't like that. Google will not rank pages high that have high bounce rates. It's much harder. You can see a lot of these pages here have a high bounce rate. That means people are coming to one page. And I will tell you that pages from Google, pages that you use search engine optimization to get traffic to, usually have a higher bounce rate because people are looking for something very specific, like how to do SEO, and they go and read that article, and then they leave because they go to another article about SEO. So you will have a higher bounce rate on pages that come from SEO. But like this one down here has a bounce rate of 25%. So that means people are going to other pages from that page. And the way to get your bounce rate to go down is to get people to interact with other pages of your website. And you do that by having a call to action on the web page. So at the end of the article, have them watch a video. At the end of the little blog post, ask them to go read another blog post. You want to get them to click on at least one link on your website. If they go to a second page, they are no longer a bounce. They are no longer just watching that page and leaving. And that helps your stats. And that also lets you test whether you're getting people to take actions on your website. That's how you test your call to actions. So that's the big stuff there. That is the 5 mistakes. And the recap of that is we want to make sure the mistakes are having a brochure website. We want a direct response website. Boring content is a big mistake. We want engaging, awesome content using video and stories. We want to utilize email more. Don't make that mistake. We don't want to have poor website design and structure. We want to have those most wanted responses, the simple, easy navigation. We want to show the why, all of that really good stuff in there. And we don't want to be flying blind. We want to start looking at our analytics. So what to do next? I would love you next to schedule time to focus on your website. So you got it. This is something that if you leave it to last, it will never get done. You need to just put time right on your calendar to really focus on your website. Implement, test a few ideas, and then start tracking your stats and analytics and see if what you're doing is making a difference. And you can use those 4 data points we just looked at on your website to track whether what you're doing is making a difference. And of course, I would love you to check out our new website course. And it is launching today. I'm going to take like 5 minutes to just tell you about it, but you can go check it out, the URL on the screen here. I will also send it out in an email when I send the recording out, but it's nonprofitrd.com/website-bootcamp. So if you liked everything we talked about today and you want to go a little deeper, you want a little more hand-holding, a little more idea of what to do and how to do it, you can check out the Nonprofit Website Bootcamp. And if you go to that page, I will bring it over here right here, and I'll just highlight a couple things from it. There's a quick video where I tell you everything that is involved in the course. I tell you kind of what we're going to be doing, all the topics we're going to be talking about, all of that good stuff. And let's just talk a little bit here about, oops, sorry, lost that page. Let me pull that up once again. Talk a little bit here about everything that you get with it. So obviously the course is presented by me, Rich Dietz from Nonprofit R&D. You guys know all about me now. But here's what's included in the course. We're going to do 4 live webinars that will be recorded, so much like this, but we're going to be able to go much more in-depth into the best practices. So we're going to go more in-depth into analytics, more in-depth into how to create your content, more in-depth how to create stories, how to actually write your stories. We're going to give you tips and strategies on how to do those exact things. We're also going to do 3 live and recorded question and answer sessions or office hours. I'm just going to get on the line, and whoever wants to join can come and ask me questions. I will answer your questions. If you want, I'll pull up your website and kind of walk through some strategies or things that you might want to change. It's going to be just one-on-one help. I'll be live for those 3 sessions there. We're also going to have some pre-recorded how-to videos. So pre-recorded how-to videos means I'm going to show you how to install Google Analytics. I'm going to show you how to go in and look at your Google Analytics. So you'll be looking over my shoulder as I actually go in and do these things. And I'll give you lots of strategies and tips on how to do that. And we're going to show you how to do some of the content updates in a couple different content management systems like WordPress, which I'm a huge fan of WordPress. But I'll also use some free ones like Weebly to show you how to do things. If people are in the course, if there's enough people that have a certain content management system, I can definitely show some demos of that one as well. We're going to have worksheets and handouts. So we're not just going to leave you on a blank page. We're going to give you a worksheet to think through how to tell your story. We're going to give you worksheets on how to create a good video, kind of how to storyboard a video, how to think of a video, all of that sort of stuff. We're going to have some bonuses. Now these bonuses, I think, puts the course really over the top and makes it a real no-brainer for folks. And that is, 1, we're going to give you a free website audit. Now this is me doing an audit of your website. I normally charge between $450 and $500 to do a website audit. I can record a video of me talking about your website, and then I give you exact steps to take to improve your website. And you can use that website audit right away, or you can wait 4 or 5 months to use the website audit after you've made some changes and you want me to go in and look at it. I'm also giving this bonus, which is, this one is making me a little nervous because it could definitely get difficult if we have too many students in the class, so I'm going to be limiting this, a free 2-hour consultation block. That means I will get on the phone with you one-on-one, and you get 2 hours of my time. I can critique emails, I can critique stories, website copy. I can even make changes on your website itself if you want me to log in and make those changes myself. You get 2 hours of my time included in this course. That's a $250 value because I currently bill out at $125. So we have that there. And the final bonus is what I'm calling the answer vault. And this is when I do a course like this, even when I do a webinar like this, I get so many questions that come in. People are emailing me questions all the time. And I answer the question for that person, but then I realize everyone else probably has that same question. So what I've done a couple times is I've created actually Q&A webinars. I just did a big webinar for Good in July. It was all on your website, and I did a Q&A webinar because we had so many questions come in after the webinar that I actually did a webinar where I just compiled all the questions and I answered every single question from the webinar that came in, even that came in after the fact. I recorded it, and then I had that transcribed into a text document, so all of those questions were answered. So if anyone has a question in the course, you will get the answer to that question as well. And I found that that is some of the best education, some of the best training, the questions that people have. So you can see the total value of this, if you bought all of this individually, is like $2,000. I have a great price for it right now. and that is $297. So you get, for $300, you get pretty much everything that we just talked about, which I think is a pretty insane price, especially if you think about just the bonuses alone. If you just look at the bonuses, just the 2-hour consultation block and the free website audit, that's $700 alone. And you're going to get that for $297 plus all of the extra training. Now, I will say this price is for fast action takers. I'm doing this as a test to see if this is something that people are interested in. And that is, it's going to be $297 until noon tomorrow. So I'm going to, and this is only for folks that couldn't make it live on the webinar. If you want to sign up right now. I'm going to send a recording of the webinar out to everybody that registered and everybody on my list. And at noon tomorrow, this price goes up to $397. So if you want to save yourself $100, buy it by noon tomorrow. Classes start on August 13th. It's going to go for 4 weeks, maybe even longer if we have extra training that people want. I'm more than willing to go a 5th week if that's what people want to do. And that's what we have going on. I highly recommend signing up for it. We also have a guarantee. If you don't think it's a good fit for you after the first week, 100% money back guarantee. We part as friends. That is not a problem. If you feel like you need to, if you feel like you have to pay this by check or PO or something like that, just email me. I'm sure we can work something out if you don't want to pay for it online, if you don't want to use a credit card. I'm sure we can set up a payment for it on check or PO or any way that would make it easier for you guys to do. So that's all that I wanted to talk about the course. Again, you can go and check it out there. If you go to nonprofitRD.com/website bootcamp. You can also go to the 5 mistakes page there, download. I'll be sending out a recording. I'll send a link out to that as well, but the link to that is nonprofitRD.com/website-bootcamp. But now let's get to what, if you guys have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box. While I'm waiting for the questions to come in, I will start getting ready to pick the winners here. So let's see, the first question that came in from Amanda is, how long is too long for a story? Again, your analytics are a great way to find out how long is too long for a story. If you get to where people are not staying on a page very long, it's probably too long. I would say, it's too long is relative, but I would break a long story up into 3 posts or 3 different shorter videos. If it's a video, 2 minutes is good for a video. If it's a really engaging story, people could stay 3 or 4 minutes, but if you get much longer than that, you get severe drop-off. As far as text posts, you don't want people to scroll too much. I would do maybe, 750 words, 1,000 words maybe, and then break it up into multiple blog posts, something like that. So that was the questions there. If you have any other questions, feel free to type them into the chat box. Let's go ahead and see who some of the winners might be. Let me get logged into Rafflecopter here. That's what I use to do the contest or the giveaway. And if you, I'm going to go ahead and close the giveaway now, so hopefully you guys had enough time to go in there and do it. We're going to head and close it there. And now I'm going to go look at the winners. Let's go look at the entries. I'm going to pull them up. And what I'm going to do for the winners here, I'm going to pull this back over here. The way we're going to pick the winners is I'm going to go to a website called random.org. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead. If no one has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Sharon says very helpful. I'm going to go stop the recording so the people on the recording don't have to, did that wrong, hold on. Random.org, there we go. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Sorry about that.